The map intros. And we spawn up here in the top right-hand corner of the map. Catalina on top of the blue Protoss player, representing Argentina and Isris Gaming, as far as I'm aware. It is Capoch.
And in the bottom of this map, at about the 5 o'clock position from Niflheim Gaming, I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, from Chile, we do have Sheep.
You know what I just realized? Yeah. Niflheim Gaming's logo looks a lot like the TL horse, the Team Liquid horse, but really evil and demonized.
Maybe...
Is it a dragon?
Yeah. How can you not tell that?
Oh my god.
Of course it's a dragon.
Cool. Okay, but to me it just looked like the horse. Oh no, don't go away! Okay, of course GameHeart does leave the logo there. For some reason I freaked out.
What do you even? I don't even.
What do I even? I only spend like probably half of my waking moments where I'm not at work just staring at StarCraft. I don't know why didn't realize that. Yeah, PvZ.
Yeah, and also, like, you're Fear Dragon, and it's clearly a dragon.
Yeah, you'd think I would be good at recognizing other dragons. No, not at all.
You are.
It's not a thing.
I don't even.
Well, Sheep is pretty convinced that there's going to be a Forge Fast Expand coming out from Capoch. Maybe he's familiar with his playstyle, considering... well, I mean, Sheep is from Chile, so not exactly from Argentina, but maybe they have seen each other around, and he just kind of knows it, because he just scouts just the natural expansion and says, okay, my opponent's probably not here, because Capoch always goes for the Forge Fast Expand. As we've been seeing.
He's gonna be a little bit disappointed in this case. He's gonna be like, oh man, you're building Gateway, building a Nexus.
Yeah, that's actually a good point.
What is this?
That's
I'm gonna go ahead and just proxy at you.
Yeah, man.
Oh, Sheep. Oh, Sheep. I'm digging this guy. Oh my gosh.
Capoch.
And eventually, immediately, Capoch is just like, yep, no, this is not happening.
Yeah, and I think that, okay, he pulled probes, he started attacking. Okay, a huge shout out to @JackAttackSC2 right now, because he has a video about this very thing. How many probes do you need to pull to kill off the hatchery before it starts? I think that Capoch has not seen the video, or he's seen the video and is like me and is not sure what number that was. But I'm pretty sure he needed 4 at the time he started attacking.
But he cancels it anyways.
Yeah.
However, Zerglings are on the way, so these probes have been pulled off the line. They're getting back to work now, and unfortunately for Sheep, he's going to be a little bit sad to find out that there's already 2 Zealots out on the map. He's not going to be busting down that wall. Although he could slip by if he's very, very tricksy.
Oh man, Capoch is trying to do like the very typical Protoss thing. He baits the Zerglings like, hey, look, I'm messing up. There's totally an opening here. Don't worry about it. I'm not gonna actually place my second Zealot there in time. And then he gets a couple extra swipes off on those Zerglings and kills a couple. It's actually a really fun game to do.
Unless you're really bad at controlling, and then the Zerglings just slip into your base anyways, and then you're like, why do I
You sound bitter like you've done this and had a personal experience around this.
Look, I'm not saying that there's a reason why I don't play Protoss anymore, but... No, that's not actually it. But we do have the third base going to be coming back down, or our good friend Sheep down on the bottom side, as you can see. He's going to be getting that up. He's got his macro hatch on the way as well. First Robo going to be getting dropped down for Capoch.
Ooh, that macro hatch.
Capoch. Now I forgot how to pronounce his name.
It's Capoch.
Capoch.
Like Ock. Like think Oculus Rift. Dude, StarCraft with the Oculus Rift? Oh my god, that would be insane.
I don't know, it's top down. Would that be insane?
Imagine, like, you know how you can do, like, the zoom-ins and stuff? Imagine if you could just look around the battlefield.
Oh my gosh. That would actually be pretty sick. Like, going from full zoomed out to basically full zoomed in. That would be pretty sick. Oh, man.
How would that even work? With, like, your mouse trying to select units and your head's trying to stay as still as possible? And be like, no, stop moving the camera. I can't select the units. That would be actually terrible. But, okay, let's really quickly talk about what Sheep's doing, because this macro hatch has gotten me really interested. I don't actually see this that often before a Zerg player is even, like, saturated his 3rd expansion. He's throwing down his evolution chamber. His layer tech is going down.
Yeah.
Nothing else seems really out of the ordinary to me. I don't know. Maybe I'm just completely ignorant.
Again, we are not Zerg players, but Capoch, he's got that immortal on the way. So he kind of learned from the game versus Egg on Overgrowth, where he just never made an immortal. And he's like, you're making 1,000,000 roaches. Well, alright, I'm just gonna stick with like this 7 gate and not do any damage. But eventually, he was able to kind of transition out of that and eventually make something happen in the fact that he won that game, so it doesn't even really matter.
Yeah, I would say that actually one of the scariest types of Protoss players that exist in the world of StarCraft is the Protoss player that knows how to 2-base all-in without actually 2-base all-inning until 5 minutes after they've actually been sitting outside your natural. They like sit outside your natural 3rd expansion, and they'll never actually push up. They'll just like pretend like they're gonna push up, and they're just like, nope, doesn't look like a good time right now. And they just sit out there for 5 minutes. The Zerg player, we saw this in his actual games versus Egg. You just sit out there and you force out more and more units. Your opponent never actually gets to a good healthy drone count. And once you have enough of these high-tech immortals or like the stalkers with upgrades, the stalkers and zealots with upgrades, or even a couple of sentries, you actually just murder your opponent. It's actually a really, really frustrating style to play against, and I've seen so many good Zerg players fall prey to it. Now, is Sheep going to be one of those Zerg players? I kind of like Orby, what he's doing. He kills off the probe, Silas!
Oh my gosh. And I mean, there is a proxy pylon down, but that is a long distance for a proxy pylon. I mean, part of the concept of a proxy pylon is the proxy part of it, where you're you know, in proximity to your opponent. In this case, not so much. Now we do have some nice force fields potentially going to be getting thrown down. One in a pretty good position. Time warp as well. All right, so he's just kind of zoning out the Zerg player. You know, not really catching units like he may have wanted to. But
I'm actually almost surprised that he didn't try moving straight up into the natural expansion, just force the ramp behind him. But it is a big risk and a huge commitment to make, especially if you don't have the energy for a photon, or sorry, a recall. But he's going to be moving down and around. The Hydralisks are going to be adding so much DPS. It makes it so much more difficult for a Protoss player to actually make a whole lot happen over here, because if the Hydralisk count gets a little bit too high, the gateway units just don't scale very well against them.
Yeah, we'll have to see if... Yeah, he's just adding on a lot more stalkers. He is... Oh, and actually mixed in a warp prism. I did indeed miss that. So Hydralisk's potentially going to be able to snipe that off, but we'll have to see how many reinforcements get in the meantime.
Guardian Shield, a very good choice against the Hydralisks. Hydralisks, of course, attack very fast, but if you can reduce 2 damage each attack, you're reducing a heck of a lot of damage. Mothership needs to be careful.
Yeah, Sheep, he's being very careful about this. He's not getting trapped out by force fields. He's baited out quite a few force fields. There can't be many left at this point. And Zerglin's going to be coming in.
Hawk is just like not losing units though. He's doing this chip damage, and he's barely lost any units.
Yep, now the engagement finally happens. Immortals in the back just going to be doing a fair amount of damage. I'm not sure exactly what's going to be happening, if this clears up or not. Okay, it seems like we have resumed. It wasn't me this time.
That is definitely good news. But the War Prism loading up a single Zealot, and we'll see if he decides to be a little bit aggressive with it. As I wouldn't be too surprised to see him do that. But actually, yeah, he's going to back up. You know, this, I'll say that this is different than the other games that we saw from Capoch. He actually has some form of tech in the form of a robotic facility. He also has some tech units, like Immortals, that are going to scale well against any kind of big attacks. And he also has a Robotics Bay on the way. So he can actually move back, get up some Colossus, and push out again. Or he could even try and take a 3rd expansion.
Yeah, the thing that I dig from our Zerg player, which again, you kind of touched on this a little bit earlier, was that in Egg versus Capoch, which actually we'll see if this engagement actually starts to happen. Zerglin's starting to move in here. All right. So anyways, in Egg versus Capoch, we saw just Egg get almost forced. I wouldn't say completely forced, but partially forced to just max out on those roaches. Like he was building safety roaches at first, and then he just never stopped building safety roaches. We've got the Spire on the way. On the same time, Sheep completely skipped building roaches pretty much at all. Actually, he may not have even built a roach warren. And I mean, Zergling's going to be dealing with this Zealot attack in the south, and that's pulling the entire army of Sheep back. Capoch, he's posturing to take that third base, or maybe he's just got a pylon there for cutesy reasons, but yeah, he takes that third base. Zerg player finally going to be taking the fourth base. But yeah, these two players going to be playing out very differently to some of the other games that we've seen today.
Yeah, and I will say that I think that it's kind of a wise decision from both of them. Of course, Sheep wants to continue to play it out into the later and later stages of the game. He has this Hydra Roach composition that honestly is going to be very, very scary when it gets maxed out, but he's going to start to mix in a couple other units. It does really well, I think, in the mid-game, which it's, you know, it's around that mid-game right now, but the mid-game does end at a certain point. You want to start getting out Corruptors to deal with Colossus, Vipers, Infestors, honestly, even just throwing down a Roach Warren or heck, a Spire or something to get up Mutalisk. Just kind of thinking about tech transitions out, but Capoch, he's definitely going to want to get that third expansion up.
Yeah, fortunately, Sheep, he's already starting to explore those options, as you were talking about, you know, getting Corruptors to counter the Colossus. He's pretty much got a card on what his opponent is doing. He's going to be maxed out very soon. He's starting that +1 flyer attacks. He's already got a pretty healthy number of Corruptors. I mean, he's got 6, I believe, like 4 more on the way, so versus the Colossus that are out, he's going to be doing all right.
Yeah, this
might actually... Nope, doesn't catch the Warp Prism.
Warp Prism's too fast, man. They needed to revert that buff that they did like 3 years ago. But Hydral's now going to be engaging against the Colossus and everything, and a couple of Corruptions actually going down on top of these Colossus. They're going down pretty fast, but the Hydral's count is going down much faster.
Yep, and fortunately for Capoch, he's actually keeping the Colossus alive for very long. I mean, yeah, you're going to be killing off the Colossus, but you lost your entire ground army. He's fallen down in supply. He's, of course, going to be going for that Remax. A lot of Zerglings, though, so if he's able to get a crazy good surround on these units, he could crush the remaining army of Capoch.
Yeah, it's definitely possible, but I think I think Capoch is going to be very wary about moving out right now. He knows about the potential for a big Zerg Remax or just a huge swarm unit, so he's probably going to wait around until he gets another Colossus or 2 out. He's taking a nice engagement. Awesome. His third expansion is going to be very secure. Go ahead and maybe think about getting some additional upgrades, getting some additional tech up, getting your Colossus and whatnot back up, and then go for the big push out once you've replenished your army. Because now, guess what? Sheep has a ton of these unupgraded Zerglings that have +1 armor on the way, but they're not going to be super useful against a large number of Colossus, especially since the Immortal is going to be able to tank a lot of damage for the Hydrals and whatnot. There's not that many Corruptors around, and well, I guess there's an okay number of Corruptors around for right now, but it's still going to be a very awkward engagement, I feel, for Sheep.
Yeah, 8 Corruptors, 3 Colossus, and then the 22 Hydralisks. Now, he has banked quite a few workers, which is going to be good for him as he's moving into that 4 base. Well, kind of 3 base play, as his first base is actually going to be drying up relatively soon here. So yeah, he's going to be looking for an engagement relatively soon, I should think. Wow, surprisingly, I didn't even really realize this, but his +1 armor is just now finishing. Of course, Protoss doesn't have great upgrades either. Here comes the engagement, though. Force Field's going to be a little bit late. The Zerglings get on top of this army basically completely.
Oh my god!
To retreat to the high ground, which is the best choice in this scenario, but has he left his natural open? That might be a suicide mission for this Zerg.
Alright, well, the entire army of Capoch is going back in to try and engage this, but this time the Colossus not doing nearly as much damage to the Hydralisk count. We need some reinforcing units over here for Capoch if he wants to defend, as right now Sheep is starting to push in on forward. Colossus getting sniped once again. The Hydral's now going to be able to potentially take out the Cybernetics Core. That would actually be a huge win if he decides to take that out and start to push in, but the Zealot reinforcements, it looks like Capoch may be able to clean this up. Sheep overcommitting just a little bit too far in.
Yeah, but the Remax from Sheep isn't going to be able to simply finish this off. He's got so many units streaming across the map, Hydralisks, but the majority of them are Zerglings. And, I mean, he's making an Immortal and a Colossus, but he doesn't have any of those Robo units out just yet. He doesn't have anything to deal with this many Zerglings. He should be able to just draw this out, though. Force fields are pretty good.
yeah, you know, I wasn't really realizing how few sentries he had, or I should say even just how little energy he had before that engagement, as he just really wasn't able to get big force fields down. That's going to be so important against the massive number of Zerglings that Sheep has been making, and now you can end up seeing the Zerglings and the Hydras able to do so much damage. Just the Hydras alone can take on this army. The Zerglings can just go after the probes in the Nexus.
Yeah, more and more probes are going down. Eventually this Nexus will be forced to fall, and it looks like Capoch drops down the GG. Sheep takes this game.
All right, that's going to bring it 1-0. Favor of our Chilean, oh my god, Chilean Zerg player. And, wow, that was an interesting game. That was what I thought was a 2-base all-in that transitioned out because he had Immortals and he could get up a Robotics Bay, and then he took a really good engagement, and then he took a really bad engagement.
Yeah. Again, man, I don't know who it was recently. I was watching some stream, and it's like they were like, I'm more and more convinced that positioning is the most important thing. And I don't know, maybe it's the most important, but I mean, we can all definitely agree that it is very important.
Yeah,
Sheep going to be taken in that first game, as you said.
Yeah. I think it's always really interesting because you hear about, like, more and more, like, there's the idea of if you could just get a massive concave, sometimes you can win with the inferior army. And I think we're starting to see that more and more these days. Like, people are getting much more clever with their army positioning and all that kind of stuff. So even though there are a lot of, like, small little maneuvers and, like, macro things and that kind of stuff that happen, like change-ups in composition to deal with somebody, a lot of the times I think some of the most elegant solutions are just position your army better. It's something you can guarantee you'll be able to do every game, but if you can outposition your opponent, sometimes it doesn't matter if you have less units or an inferior army. I think that's actually one of my favorite parts about watching some really good StarCraft players. But yeah, I would have to say that I think even though positioning has been important, in that game, I would actually really hand it to the massive flood of Zerglings of Sheep.
Yeah, that follow-up.
I was very skeptical of it. It was like unupgraded Zerglings versus like upgraded Protoss army with Colossus. But then the more that I thought about, like, the Colossus count was reset because of the Corruptors. And actually, somebody was pointing this out in the chat earlier on, that Capoch really likes warping in a lot of Stalkers, doesn't warp in quite as many Zealots. So it was going to be a mostly Stalker and Sentry-based army versus a lot of Zerglings, which is okay if the Sentries have energy. What I wasn't realizing was that
force fields.
Yeah, there wasn't that much energy. There were like 3 force fields that went down during that engagement. And that was it. And then he kind of had to retreat back up the ramp, lost a ton of units in the process. That was really where things started to go wrong. So really good identification over there from Sheep, saying, you know what?
Retreats up his natural ramp, and then it's like, lol, I'll just go into your third base.
Yeah.
I've got a million Zerglings. Yep. Some definitely good play by Sheep. Now, Capoch wasn't totally outclassed there, but he was soundly defeated, so we'll have to see how this game number 2 goes. Of course, Sheep, he's going to be looking to take this in a 2-0, but can he actually advance on to the playoffs of Copa America Season 3? Hopefully we're going to be finding out in just a couple of moments as we get this game loaded up.
Yeah. Map is going to be merry-go-round, and we've already talked about this map before. It's a very difficult map to take third expansions on. So here's the thing. We've seen Capoch play on merry-go-round before. We've seen him play just on every map before. I get this funny feeling, Cybert, we may see a 2-base all-in from Capoch.
Well, I'm going to say that because every expansion is gold on this map, that he's not going to. Now everyone's just really confused.
Yeah, I'm very confused. We'll find out in a second, guys. Don't go anywhere. Alright guys, we're going to be spawning down here in the bottom side of the map merry-go-round on top of the red Zerg player. Going to be representing the country of Chile. It is from Niflheim Gaming, Sheep.
And in the top 2 o'clock position, the blue Protoss from Argentina, from Isurus Gaming, or however you pronounce that, we have Capoch.
Alright, so Cyber, you become aware of this.
I've become
Argotham in the chat
things,
is asking if you have toilet paper on your microphone, and now I'm really wondering about that.
Man, I can't afford a pop filter, so I just stick a paper towel in front of it, and it blocks like maybe one.
You told me about this once, actually.
Yeah, it blocks like maybe 1% of pops, but I did some recording tests, and it's like, okay, it is technically blocking some of the explosives, not much, but technically.
But I mean, Cyber, aren't you a big name commentator making like millions of dollars a year? You can't afford an extra pop filter for your microphone? I mean, I know
millions of dollars.
I know I carry like an extra 7 on my private jet.
Hashtag money. I think that's it.
Hashtag caster money. Oh, the probe with the spawning pool
my
blocks! That was amazing.
Wait, what? Oh,
the probe blocked the spawning pool.
The probe was gonna go down, and I was like, what?
Oh no.
Forge into, well, I'm assuming it's gonna be an expand, but
yeah,
the expand technically hasn't gone down. But yeah, he's got the forge, so every time with Capoch, we gotta keep the opportunity open. He has yet to actually do like a full-on cannon rush that I have seen today.
He thought about it on the map Habitation Station, but I would say that that is a special map, and I will identify now when
Habitation Station.
Yeah, when I think Capoch actually goes for the Forge Fast, or for the actual cannon shenanigans, and it's when he sees that there's no scouting at the natural expansion. I think if he did, like every single time there's always been a drone there or an overlord directly over the hatchery, and I think the only time that he will go for the cannon shenanigans is when he knows it's not going to be scouted initially. He can get the pylon down without having to worry about it.
That's fair. That's a reasonable conclusion to come to. Reasonable.
3 bases up for Sheep. Standard play coming out of both of these guys, but again, I want to note that merry-go-round, a very difficult 3rd expansion to take. If you guys aren't familiar with this, you probably haven't been watching too much StarCraft lately, but I'll just go ahead and recap it. This 3rd expansions are so far open for a Protoss player to try and take, because this 3rd expansion down here in the low ground, it's kind of far away from your natural expansion. It's very easy to get cut in between both of these bases, but it's also just so difficult to use force fields to defend it properly. And this expansion up here is just, it's so far away, it's so unbelievably far away that it feels like you have to have 2 different armies to defend both of them. So we just don't see a lot of Protoss players trying to easily take a normally timed 3rd expansion on this map. Oftentimes, it's a 3rd expansion after a 2-base all-in, which sounds kind of weird because I know I said 2-base all-in, but yeah.
2-base aggression.
Heavy 2-base committed aggression with cut probes and no tech behind it, but you do enough damage that you could transition out. That's honestly the most accurate way to describe it.
If you're gonna put that many additional words into it, then
I didn't know I was allowed to use all of those syllables.
Man. Alright, +1 attack on the way. Capoch opening up very similarly to how we've seen him open up in a lot of the games from today. Not exactly the same as the last game, as game number 1 against Sheep on Catalina, but very similar overall.
Yeah. Probe over here from Capoch trying to be very, very tricky. Almost got actually away. The Zergling walked just barely past it, but came back for round 2 and gonna have to retreat on home. I have to say,
trying to get down those proxy pylons.
Yeah, I love the way that Capoch does this also. Because you'll see that, oh, my probe got found out. He'll send out another probe, and he knows that there's only one Zergling attacking that probe. So he says, well, I'm just going to send one probe home and then send out another probe. And one of them is going to get out because you only have one Zergling attacking me. So now the Sheep has to go locate that probe once again. This is actually a really cute little maneuver that he does.
Yep. Macro hatch finishing up at just a little bit before the lair, coming out from Sheep. And of course, Zergling speed. It's late in some cases, but in this game, it's absolutely fine. Both of these players playing pretty macro, and of course, Sheep, he's not looking to put on any aggression early on. It's very clear.
Yeah, it is very clear that Capoch is going to be macroing, but he's going to be macroing off of 7 gateways, man. he is looking to be
I was
very...
talking about Sheep.
Oh, I know. But yeah, he's gonna be putting on a lot of aggression with these 7 gateways, and of course the Overseer.
They pretty much all get spotted.
Yeah,
this is a nicely timed scout.
Not just pretty much, man. Every single gateway gets spotted, and I think he also saw the Chronicles on the Forge, so he should also have an idea of like kind of what's going on. The Stalkers are now get spotted, so Sheep has all the stuff that he needs to know about this. But the Hydralisk Den actually, Hydralisk Den finishing up. No, he canceled it. He's just going for the Roach Warren.
Yep, and he's also going to be looking to add on some of those Overlords so that he can finally actually add on some units to deal with this army. And of course, lots of Zerg players hate playing against this 2-base, 7-gate sort of play.
I'm really worried right now, Cyber. I am unbelievably worried because there just aren't many units. There's 8 There's only 8 Zerglings. Cyber, there's 8 Zerglings and only 9 Roaches on the way. This army could take out the entire army of Sheep if the entire army of Sheep, like the army that would exist if you had an extra 35 to 40 seconds. This is...
we'll see. Now, this could be a pretty quick game number 2 from here on out. Drones immediately pulled off the line. What else can he do? He's got hardly any units to try to hold this. Zealot's starting to get into the mix, and this is some nice drone kills. Not crazy kills just yet, but it's just going to skyrocket from here on out.
And Sheep takes the 2-0 victory in... Oh, sorry, Capoch takes a 1-1
there we go.
tie. Wow, sorry, I totally got those mixed up. But yeah, amazingly, a very interesting situation over there. I did not expect it to go that way. I don't know what was going on with the Hydralisk Den. He canceled it. He also didn't have any units out in time. He saw that there was... Okay, I'm trying to go through this in my head. He saw the gateways. Kind of think
through it as
he saw the warp gates while his Hydralisk Den was building. His Hydralisk Den, he immediately starts a Roach Warren. That was the first thing he does. He starts a Roach Warren because he says the Hydralisk Den isn't going to finish up in time. I need some additional buffer units before that. He then cancels the Hydralisk Den and says, maybe I need extra resources also just to defend immediately. And then he has the option to produce more Zerglings, but he decides, after seeing that the Forge had been chrono boosting +1 weapons, that he needed to hold off until he had Roaches out. But by that point, it was too late. Because the Zerglings would just get ripped apart by Zealots, right? Like, it just wouldn't have even been close. Even with the small number of Zealots that Capoch actually had.
Yeah, he would have needed more Zerglings than he could make. Then that supply block that happened, like, just before the engagement, right before the Hydrogen got canceled, it happened just before any of the actual units could be produced. And he wasn't exactly like... He didn't have a lot of free supply anyways. Then he gets supply blocked right when that attack starts, and he starts the Overlords, of course. He cancels the Hydrogens, but it's just too little, too late.
Yeah, very interesting. And I'm trying to think, like, what he could have done differently in that game.
Not lose.
Well, thank you for the expert analysis from Cyber.
Play better.
I'm glad we know who the analytical commentator is in this casting duo.
Yeah, man. I am a Zerg master.
Of course, man. You know, I heard that, like, Nesty, God of the Universe, knows a lot about ZVZ. He actually learned it all from you, man.
That's what it's about. All I do is play ZVZ. All I do is play Z. All I do is Z.
All I do is ZVZ no matter what. That should be a tempo. That should be a tempo, StarCraft. Tempo, are you in the chat right now? I know you were there earlier. This is money gold. All I do is ZVZ no matter what. Gold. There's money on my lings. I don't even... Okay, I have to think of a rhyme there, but I'm not going to say it on the stream.
Yeah, I'm like, how long is Fear Dragon going to try to rap?
How long is he going to do this and embarrass himself? Like,
I'm just kind of
Here's the thing. Now Temple is going to pick that exact song to parody, but he's going to completely not take a single one. He's not even going to use a single one of the words that I just mentioned. Not even like the word the, or like or whatever. He's not even going to use prepositions that I picked. He's just going to be like, okay, I'm just going to show you how wrong you were and how much better the song could have been.
Indeed. But we are going to be jumping into game number 3. This is the decider match. We've already seen Cham advance through this group. This is Group D, the final group. Sheep, or Capoch? Who is it going to be? It's all coming down to this one game, and a couple of moments in this game are going to be the deciding factor of who goes forward to the final round, to the next round of this tournament.
Yep, tied up 1-1. There's a lot on the line for both of these players. Neither of them have ever made it out of the group stages for Copa America, so this is going to be a big proving ground kind of place for them where they can try and go on. And I believe that the winner of this series will go on to play Huck, which is going to be a tough road ahead.
Yeah, it's like, oh, made it to...
Also, side note, Sham's going to play Jon Snow, which is also something we didn't actually talk about at all. But yeah, the winner of this match has to go on to play Huck in the next round. It's going to be very interesting. Let's go ahead and jump into that map intro. We'll be right back, guys. And we're spawning down here in the bottom right-hand corner of the map on top of the Chilean Zerg player representing Niflheim Gaming. It is the Dragon Sheep. Sheep Dragon.
I have no idea where you were going with that, but...
The logo is the dragon!
Yeah, don't even. Just don't even. Alright, in the north position, spawning directly above that of his opponent, we have... from Argentina, Capoch.
I almost want to call him K-pop.
K-pop?
It's so close. It's so close.
Man, that 1-1 score. Best of 3. Everything's coming down to the wire. And fortunately for Sheep, he's going to be very happy with his scouting direction. He could not love that anymore.
Oh, Cybert! We have a mix-up, Capoch. It's proving me completely wrong. He doesn't go for the Forge Fast Expand or even just the Nexus first or Gateway expansions at the low ground. He's going for the in-base Gateway expansion on a map that oh, actually, you know what? Okay, this may be thinking too far ahead. All right.
Thanks.
I don't actually have any kind of historical evidence to back up what I'm about to say, but this is something I've always felt. As a Protoss player, it's always annoyed me when they go for a fast third on this map and they create the wall off between their natural expansion and the third, because on this map, if a Zerg player decides to go for Mutalisk, it can actually be a huge annoyance where you try and build the wall off at the third and you build the wall off at your natural expansion, and now if the Mutals go to your main base and your army's at your third or like outside of your base, you can't get back and you can't get back home to defend. It's just not happening. So if you
have to like try to recall and then the Mutants just go down to your third and they're like, lol.
Yeah, so I'm almost wondering like, okay, I'm again probably thinking too far ahead.
Yeah.
But what if Capoch goes for the Gateway base expansion, goes for the natural and goes for a fast third, walls off at the third immediately afterwards with his third, fourth, and fifth, or sorry, second, third, and fourth gateways, and then doesn't have to worry about that. Now he has 3 bases and he doesn't have like multiple wall offs to jump through and funnel his army through against like an air Zerg player.
Yeah, you were definitely thinking way too far ahead in this game.
God, I'm so proud of like that line of thought though, man. I want to see some Protoss players do it.
Yeah, I don't know that this is... Maybe in other games we will end up seeing that, but in this particular game, I should think not.
Probably not. Yeah,
not to kill your buzz there, but I'm gonna kill your buzz and say no.
There's not to kill your buzz there, but there's a wall going on the natural expansion. Capoch actually doesn't want to die to a bunch of Zerglings early on.
If you 3 base before your second gate, yes.
Right? Yeah, it's a brilliant maneuver. But yeah, he's gonna just get up that wall and use the Zealot and... Oh, actually, he's gonna send that Zealot out.
Rushing. Oh, he actually is moving out with that Zealot. You know, I mean, he's very fortunate because there's not like a crazy amount of Zerglings about to flood into his main base, but he doesn't really know that.
So
potentially that could have been bad, but so far not.
There's a problem.
Oh my god, wait a second. Okay, what?
There's a Roach Warren going down. There's no third expansion. Sheep is also scouting out these proxy pawns like Capoch is throwing down because Capoch wants to be aggressive with these 4 gateways. This is actually the 4 gateway, like initially the first game that we saw Capoch, I was like, he's gonna go for this 4 gate zealot heavy aggression, but he went for a 7 gate instead. This is actually gonna be the 4 gate zealot aggression. And this is actually the worst possible thing that he could be facing. He's gonna be facing a Zerg player that doesn't have a 3rd expansion for him to kill off. He's gonna be realizing that now. He's gonna see roaches that are just gonna kite the heck out of these zealots and wreck them. As long as he controls this well, the only saving grace that Capoch has is that he should be able to have enough zealots that it shouldn't matter that he's getting kited. He should be able to just go send a couple to the drone line and do damage.
Yep, so it's partially going to be depending on those splits. Nope, it's not going to be just the zealots.
Couple stalkers mixed in, but I really like what Sheep is doing. He's doing the wall off. He's forcing the stalkers and the sentries to be worked in. And oh wait, sentry. Oh my god, is he?
Yeah.
Could he?
He's not going for the zealot.
Could he do a contain over here with a single sentry? Could he just contain his opponent with his own wall?
This is actually very real. All right, so he cancels. All right, yeah, he's widened that, but I think it's still like 1 force field. He's starting to work away at some of those extra chambers, and he gets a nice group of roaches here, as well as one of the queens. Some of the stalkers getting pulled back, some really nice micro, but some nice control there. And Capoch, I mean, he's doing a little bit of damage, not crazy amounts just yet.
He's only lost 1 zealot so far, and the rest of his zealots, like the stalker is gonna regenerate shields. He's doing so much damage over here. He's already been able to kill off a couple of these roaches, 2 Zerglings, and guess what? It's a 2-base Protoss versus a 2-base Zerg. Both of them have incredibly low worker counts, but this is just gonna work out. It's gonna scale better for Capoch.
Yeah, especially if he's able to continue to get just these nice engagements. Even if he's not taking just huge amounts of units down, he's still doing just enough. I mean, eliminating those 2 Evo chambers plus all of their just cancels to try to keep that wall off. This is hurting Sheep quite a bit.
So here's the thing, and the reason why I like Capoch's situation better. Right now, he doesn't have to commit. He's doing some good damage over here. He's actually going to be able to kill off a lot of these roaches and everything. But I feel like actually this may have been a bit of an overcommittal. He's getting pushed back a little bit. He's losing a lot of his units. And the roach count is actually pretty heavy over here for Sheep.
He's pushing out more and more roaches, going to be chasing this army back further and further. A warping zealot. His army got so split up in that engagement.
And, I mean, Cyber, he's going to be able to push back these roaches a little bit, but I feel like now Sheep is going to be able to just get out enough roaches, and he's going to be able to just push on forward and keep these stalkers back, because eventually maybe he's going to be able to kill off that proxy pylon. Here's the thing, I feel like if Capoch was just a little bit more patient, Sheep is sitting on 2 bases. He only has 2 bases worth of larvae. Even if he manages to sneak out drones, he's still just on 2 bases. And Capoch, he can actually produce workers and units off of these 2 bases. He only had 4 warp gates that he was producing off of. He could have gotten up some more workers, and he could have eventually just scaled better because he would have had better production and been containing his opponent to those 2 bases. I feel like it would have worked out if Capoch was a little bit more patient. But now he's stuck on 2 bases with only 4 warp gates and no tech to speak of.
Well, I mean, he does have his robo on the way, but it's not actually on the map just yet. We've got the upgrades starting to get rolled out for our Zerg player. Of course, it's not actually out just yet, but it's on the way. And yeah, just in a couple of seconds, we saw pretty much even army supply suddenly swing just way into the favor of our Zerg player as the zealot numbers just fell and the roach numbers just ate up those zealots. But he's not quite out of it just yet. He is going to be taking that 3rd base. He's going to be in a very dicey, even though some people really hate that word.
Hashtag dicey.
Yeah, hashtag dicey situation.
Hashtag Roddy Gaming.
We're going all the way with the hashtags.
Hashtag.
Hashtag I don't know, Kev. And now that we've lost all of the viewers, welcome the 3 of you still watching. After we just hashtagged all this
I'm going to be looking for that viewership dip in 3 minutes.
Yeah, man, it's going to happen.
Alright, well, Roach is moving out across the map.
Yeah. Is it just going to be coming down to, like, really great force fields from our Protoss player?
No, because there's 1 force field that goes down, and it's not an amazing one. This army just gets moved right on top of. He's going to have a second opportunity to force field thanks to the time warp, but he's just trying to get his units behind that wall in.
Alright, so he's dropped down the 2 force fields, and the Immortal has survived, which is pretty important, but this Forge and the 3rd base, they are essentially forfeit at this point. If he manages to save those, he might be able to save the 3rd base if Sheep just walks away. But
Sheep is being very greedy over here. He's trying to go for the jugular. He's trying to push in over here and kill off as many units as possible, but there's an Immortal in the mix. There's sentries over here. I really don't like this decision.
Yep, a second Immortal about to be popping on out as well. Eventually, he'll get into the battle and start doing some damage. Photon Overcharge also pops, but these force fields, they're actually keeping the Roaches at bay until he just burrows. But yeah, the production coming out, 7 more Roaches. We've got a ton of them just moving across the map as he just, like, F2s his entire army and burrows all of his Roaches, regardless of where they are.
I don't know, Kev. There's going to be a 3rd Immortal out very soon. He's going to be able to actually have a pretty scary army for this force, but she finally does get that 3rd expansion.
I mean, you know, maybe with, like, some really great force fields, and, one of these Immortals actually just completely annihilated.
Oh, God,
that
the sentries.
So quickly, and again, this Roach burrow is just so good. He's going to jump out right on top of all of the Immortals. One shot, a second volley is going to be eating up one of these Immortals right away, and these probes are also forfeit.
The Roaches are now pushing in. They're going to be taking out the remainder of the Stalkers. The Observer is out, but to what end? There's nothing left to kill him. I believe something about good luck was probably said there, and Sheep gonna advance on from Group D in Season number 3 of Copa America.